So what are custom visuals in Power BI? Well, Power BI, of course, ships with tons of built-in visuals. It's full of built-in charts and graphs which you can use. It includes tons of useful standard visuals like bar charts, etc. Now that's all built in, and I will be quite honest here, for the majority of use cases, that probably is all that you need. But sometimes you need a special type of chart, a special kind of graph which you want to add to your analysis to show your data in the best possible way. And for such cases, where maybe the built-in charts and visuals don't suffice, you can reach out to custom visuals. These simply are visuals that are not built into Power BI, but instead, these are visuals added by the community, by other developers, possibly by you. They can be shared via AppSource, which you could say is Microsoft's in-app marketplace. And there you can share all kinds of applications and plugins for Microsoft products. But you can also share custom visuals via AppSource. And any Power BI user could then download your visual and add it to his or her analysis and use it in there. Now that's how you can get custom visuals built by other users. In this module, however, we will not focus on how you can get those visuals, but how you can build your own visuals, because maybe that is interesting to you as well. Either because the visual, the chart, the graph you're looking for is nowhere to be found and you can't find it in the AppSource marketplace either, or maybe because you simply feel like building your own visuals and you maybe also want to share your own visuals with other developers. Therefore, in this module, I will show you how you set up such a custom visual and how you build it, and where you then can also learn more about it. So we want to build our own custom visual. Now for that, we'll need to write some code. Building custom visuals is done outside of the Power BI editor, outside of the Power BI tool. It's also not a drag and drop thing or anything like that. Instead, you have to write some real code. And therefore, obviously, if you have absolutely no experience with writing any code, and especially if that's not even interesting to you, you might very well just skip this module, because then probably you're not going to get that much out of it. If you are interested though, stick with me. To build custom visuals, we use a programming language called TypeScript. Now, TypeScript actually builds up on another programming language, JavaScript, and it's a so-called superset to JavaScript. So in case you know JavaScript, maybe because you did some web development in the past, then you will have an easier time following along. If you know nothing about that, you might still follow along, but if you want to get real serious about building custom visuals, you should absolutely also pick up some dedicated JavaScript and or TypeScript resources. We do have courses on both, just in case you're interested. So we're going to write our code in TypeScript. Now, we're not going to write all the code on our own though. Instead, we typically also use some third-party libraries that give us certain functionalities so that we don't have to write everything from scratch on our own. Specifically, to build custom visuals, you typically use special libraries for visualization and or DOM manipulation, like for example D3.js. That's a library we're going to use throughout this module. In case you're wondering what DOM manipulation means, DOM stands for Document Object Model, and in the end, DOM is what your browser does to the HTML code that makes up a web page. A browser parses that code and builds up such a DOM. So in the end, the DOM is the thing the browser needs to bring something onto the screen when it loads a web page, you could say. And custom visuals under the hood leverage those web technologies. And therefore, in the end, there we will also manipulate such a DOM so that Power BI, in this case, can bring our visual to the screen. And that's why we'll use libraries that help us with that, so that we have an easier time doing those manipulations. But I will show all of that step by step throughout this module. Now, writing code and using libraries is not everything. We also need to test our visual, and we'll do that in developer mode. I'll show you how to enable that and how you can test your own visual throughout this module. And therefore, as I mentioned, because of all of that, some basic development experience helps, or I would even say is required to get the most out of this module. But of course, you can also just follow along and watch the videos if you're interested to see how that generally works. So with that, let's take the next step and make sure we set up our local development environment.